I came from a fishing village in the west coast of a peninsula in Malaysia. Um, so growing up in this fishing village, I had moved several times from the village to another city, and my grandparents migrated from the southern part of China in around the 20th or 30th. So I'm the third generation of Chinese diaspora, sort of, in Malaysia. And later, I moved to Singapore in 90s, late 90s. And then in late 2000, I moved to Sweden. And I was trained as a painter and children art educator in Malaysia. And constant desire of seeking for some artistic expression and further searching of myself in artistically or artistic way. I further my study and art education to Singapore and Australia and then Sweden. So this schools such as like Nanyang Academy of Fine Art, or short form NAFA, and Curtin University in Australia, and Valand in Sweden. Yeah, so it's kind of like throughout the whole journey of my artistic practice, I have been crossing all disciplinary, from painting, sculpting, photography, ceramics, new media, installation arts, conceptual art. But right now, for this many years, I have been focusing most, mainly in performance art. Hmm. Yeah, the idea of the show, I would like to use this opportunity to create a fictional story to tell about a complicated relationship between human and their land. And this land, be it like nature, environment, um, or the soil, any kind of personal relationship they have. So the exhibition divided into four room, or I say four component, where you started from the big hall, the garden. Um, Gardening actually is a very important process and a place for a place very good for reflection and a very important ritual. So therefore, I started with gardening and created a garden customized using the space of Konstmuseet in Skövde. And so when you come into the room, you see, you walk in or following in a geoglyph symbol of maze, or you call it labyrinth, a simple one. And the whole idea of the symbol was taken from this geoglyph, which is actually one of the reference that I searched and relate to some founding, especially in Amazon rainforest or its surrounding in the basin, and of course other area. The archaeologists have found out that all these geoglyphs could suggest of some other civilization dated back many years. But to be making simple for myself, not as an archaeologist, but as an artist, I searching sometime around like 3,500 years ago, where I was searching for where human intellectual or human interaction with land and how agriculture or the knowledge of uh, cultivating on land started. So, for example, the hanging text in the middle of the room is a huge, about 2 meter times 3 meter size of puzzle or assembler of 20 pieces of root grow from wheatgrass. Yes. And the symbol, for example, on the right, no, on the left, is a symbol of a wood stick, and on the right is a symbol of a wheel. And when the wheel and the stick putting together is a human interactivity, active action when the relationship started of human and land. So yeah, and as a performance artist, I intentionally created this route of passage for audience or visitor to follow and walk in. But eventually, of course, visitor choosing their own how they want to move themselves in that space. So I kind of creating a space where visitor by itself perform in the space, move their body, interacting or smelling, getting close to the piece and smell the sense and be inside the environment and experience. And throughout the time of 5 months of this exhibition, they will be a process of the growing and drying and dying. So it's also a cycle of nature itself. And after room one, when a visitor exceed the garden, they will come across the stair where it lead them to the balcony. I call it the lead warrior. Um, the lead warrior standing above the balcony seems to be looking after protecting the land and guarding the garden. And in this component, there are 7 images where the artist is wearing the knitted lead warrior suit that is crafted by herself, posing, holding a shovel, posing in front of a fake landscape, printed landscape in the studio, to create a paradox of the fake and the real and the fake in relation to our relationship to the land and with the intention of protecting the land. So you see there's some underline here where I don't want to make a conclusion, but this have to throw back again to the visitor of how they think and choose their own perspective of looking at it. And the 7 suit also hanging around in within the space. Some were they need a very long process of preparation, including cutting, drying, selection of different pieces of the leaf from the leaf. And it's a very common familiar material for most of our people, dis- despite any classes. There's no classes, and poor or rich, whoever can enjoy this food very much. And many use it as a very basic material in the cuisine. And if you're looking at its health property, of course, it's very, very healthy and strengthen human immunity system. Of course, is back to the idea of food and belief, and later it became a culture. And this food is a culture. From the culture perspective, as a descendants from my own grandparents who believing in this food is actually giving you prosperity, because if you have a long life and keeping yourself well, protecting yourself by eating this food, these vegetables, it keep you long. and healthy. But then it was more, yeah. Um, so I using the property of this vegetables and the fragility when I using it as art material, it and dry this material, it became so fragile. So I use this fragility and the healthy property combined, and of course a long process of labor and time. So it is, yes, the important thing here suggesting about the resistance with the fragility, and that is the main focus and the idea of creating this room of the lead warrior, who later on it was started from one piece, and then the second piece, and then became a whole group of armor that is represent from many different parts of the world and protecting this land and that garden, um, uh, that's standing above the garden. After the sleek warrior, when you exit from the balcony, you will come to the laboratory, the component three, the third component. And then laboratory, is showing some of my previous performance work that focuses mainly on of some of GMO food and its controversy, uh, GMO food and its controversy. So especially the important grain such as rice and soya bean. Um, some and so this whole idea in the laboratory is to create some sort of archive, including like video, photo, relics, and remake relics, and the actual relics, for example. Um, and after all the three components, at the end of the laboratory, a visitor would come to the participatory. There is a room, I call it the participatory room. It's not easy to pronounce. But and in this room, visitor to encourage to spend some little time. There will be like small chair for people to sit. They could digest what they had gone through in other component with and leave. They were encouraged and invited. Actually, their participation in this room is really important to to be part of the show, to contribute as their reflections, messages, text on the stone that laying around on the floor. And in this room, I also show other two clips of video. One is some memory of my childhood and nostalgia, and a little bit of landscape of the paddy field. And the second video clips are a pre-recorded performance in this room where I interact and left my own thought on the stone. And this performance piece I call it Nature Time, Human Time, which it is true where human time is so temporal, nature time is, I can't really use the word permanent, but the time is definitely longer than human time. So we can't witness everything but the remain from history. And then on the other side of the wall, there were other messages left from the previous performance project. What is your time? In Buenos Aires, where visitor came to the performance and left their message on and leave the message on me. So I eventually accumulated with all messages from the visitors and became a messages threes. It was fantastic. And today, when I looking back to these messages, I would love that stone will give me the same sensation, like a review of time. Back then, 2014, now 2020, is about 6 years. What if I couldn't keep those stones and those messages? At least I will find a way to document and keep it. And if I have a chance of another project, that will be also another review, a further review of review and reflection. That is the four. So this is very important part for the participation. That's therefore the room called the participatory room. My creative process, sometimes it started with a visual image, and then the idea came later. And sometimes it's an idea and a concept, and I try to find languages to portray or articulate this concept and idea. It could also from a material. When I see a material, is assembled of something from experience that can be the smell, can be the texture, can be the form. They all and the whole doing as well. Um, I often, for example, the League Warrior. I give. It started from a performance work, performance project where I performed. It wasn't called Knitting the Future or nor the League Warrior. It was just I wanted to create a strong image from a single image from a performance piece using a material that is fragile but strong. And I was searching of how, and I was testing leak and testing is how workable it is, and then I was starting knitted when I was invited in perform in a pirate festival, performance festival in Venice, and for 3 days I was knitting on the square and different locations and blindfolded and just knit and knit and knit for 3 days. Of course, different time frame, and eventually it came out like a scruff, but the texture, the pattern, assembles of armor, a metal armor of in the medieval time. So it gave me some further idea. So this how the whole project started. That I would like to knit a armor suit and to feel how it looked like, and then the idea and the concept just go deeper and deeper and deeper and further up to today's what you see with those images, photograph, and the seventh army suit. As another example for the wheatgrass, the wheatgrass, I believing not that I believing, but as a child, and the process of all the growing environment, wheatgrass at some point were fashionable, became especially its juice. People call it green juice or power juice. It's a super health food, and people believe it can be like cure cancer and everything. So I thought, is that fake or just believe? So I using these two factor and create a performative participatory performance where I invite people to drink this juice with me and talk about their experience and how what they believe in and have they heard about and conversation growing from there. And after all the and of course I created many different performances using the same material because I normally would like to explore a material, not using it just once, but using it many times to find its potential and to find its meanings and a further understanding of this material. So when come to wheatgrass, it's not just from one project, it's bring you more to the next project. So I was trying to create different format of using wheatgrass and talking to people, and I just get inspired and just continue the whole creative process by by constantly doing and ongoing and find which is best to be able to concentrate into or find a focus point in this material. And today we're standing here, you, especially the text or the symbol that grown out of the wheatgrass root. It was also by accident when after performances, after all the cutting grass, the remain of the leftover grass and the root and the soil, so beautiful. What can I do with them? What are ways that I throw them? But I can't do anything because I don't have a concept with it. They already used. So what can I do with them? So there, after I said, okay, what about I grow them? I create an idea and I create this idea, I create this platform and I grow it on this platform. And eventually I started 1-2 piece and it worked and then I get excited and then this project is growing bigger, bigger and bigger. So this is, as I said, that is it could the whole creative process it could started with just one material, and it takes years to develop into a huge series or to bring the journey from one point to another point. And it could be eventually totally out of your initial idea or the departure point. But that is not the main issue. For me as an artist, I devoted whole life, so I had my whole lifetime to just continuing. So I could even abandon some project that I think is no more interest to me that I have been doing for many years and it's not working and it stops speaking to me. I could abandon that. So this how well sort of my creative process. Yeah. I would say life as experience. Uh, and it have to be relating to my surrounding, my environment, something that I know better, I learned, I understand, certain or uncertain. Um, of course, when you say inspiration, it could be like, oh, I inspired by this artist or that. But for me, I just constantly look for something that is interest me, that I still have the curiosity that I want to dig into something and something that is interest me. So I do enjoy artist talk, for example. Some of the channels I often listen to, such as like Louisiana channel or Tech channel, Bloomberg artistic talk, and listen to how other artists their own creating process of how their life part of their working process as well. And of course, my own background is also inspiring. My background is like from my childhood, from a different stage of life, from a fishing village and moved to the city. And in the city and moved to another country, I often I can't really use the word inspired, but maybe influenced, I would say, by local condition, local news, global issue, different concerns, and and I, as an artist, I sometimes lost in this process and follow the flow, follow the trend, and it does. It is a process for me, and I think it is still important that I can't deny that sometimes you can be just following the trend, but after a while you come back to yourself that, oh, what am I really doing, and what is me, and what is the most represent, not, I can't use the word represent, yeah, what is much more important to the core of my concern, and and relate to me, not just something happening today and then it's gone tomorrow. Something that is more meaningful and it worth the time spending in the long making process. I enjoy looking at good exhibition as well. Often, if I have a chance, I would like to go for some big major exhibition, get inspiration and talk about that. It's very important. Talk about that, discuss about light, dislight, why and what. I enjoy watching performance art, which also my turning point when I was stuck as a painter or installation artist. Yeah, I ventures to performance art. I wasn't start doing performance. I was just watching as the audience for many years, and someday your body just follow the floor, and then you just start doing that, and then you never stop, and you realize that it draw you out from the canvas where you're stuck, and you feel lively when you're doing the action, and the interest, the intensity, the idea, that feeling of the creativity remain in the body and the brain and the mind, and then you just keep on going. And in the past, when I watching a performance art, work of art, I often question, oh, what's the artist is doing? Why the artist doing this? What is the idea behind? And today, I more enjoy of watching an action, and you're able to actually follow the traces of the thought and the construction of the idea from one point to another, from one action to another, and you see how the artists are actually doing. It's like you see a live creating process in the middle of life and happening right now, and then suddenly your eyes just open up and you're able to see in your surrounding of how things is happening and how clear things become to you. So yeah, they are my inspiration of how brought me to be able to see in another perspective. Yeah.
Terima kasih banyak.